The Sun Devils have some 2025 recruiting visits set up, and two of them are very interesting.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. And today we are focusing on the recruiting side of things for Sun Devils football, because last night we had 4 visits that were announced for Arizona State from 2025 recruiting prospects. Now, there is 2 names that are very, very interesting. The way we're going to talk about this first is there are 2 dates that have been set. April 19th, which has 3 of the 4 prospects coming in, and May 31st, which is my birthday, with another prospect coming in. So let's look at April 19th first. 3 kids are coming in. The first is 4-star athlete, although from my understanding, he is more as a tight end, and that is Nick Townsend. He is coming in from Decaney High School out in Houston, Texas, 6'3", 220 pounds. He is the number 4 athlete in the recruiting cycle. Again, I'm pretty sure that he is going to be a tight end, although yet to be seen. And he is the number 17 prospect in the state of Texas and the 122nd prospect in the nation. Pretty good. You also have Mark Ionacre, and if that sounds familiar, it's because his brother Max plays for Arizona State. He's one of our offensive linemen, very versatile guy. Well, his brother Mark, who plays out in Narbonne High School in Harbor City, California, may be a good link for us. Another 4-star prospect. He is the number 27 overall recruit in the state of California and the number 30 overall recruit at the linebacker position. California kid, 6'2", 215, 4-star. Next and last guy who is coming in on April 19th, I have been practicing his name, so bear with me, is going to be interior offensive lineman Houston Kahahaina Torres. And this kid is another interior lineman, plays at St. Louis High School in Honolulu, Hawaii, 6'3", 265. Number 2 recruit in the state of Hawaii, the number 19 recruit along interior lineman in the nation. This is another kid that Arizona State is trying to create that Polynesian pipeline with. And it's another interior guy. It's a big dude. It's a physical dude. He would just go along with so many other guys that they have been recruiting for the interior of their offensive line with like Suka Saluni and Terrell Kim and some of the other guys that are coming in. Like, they are loading up on interior guys. Really big deal that they are continuing to recruit the Polynesian linemen who are built to last. And what I really like about this is you're establishing a culture there. Like, we talk about activating the Valley, and the biggest thing when it comes to activating the Valley is keeping the kids home and recruiting the in-state kids who aren't just 5-star kids. Like, they're looking at the 3 stars and even the kids who aren't rated. Like, you had Navi Brunson, who is committing to Arizona State after being a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year at Liberty High School, but he ended up being rated a 2-star kid. Well, Arizona State didn't care. They said, you can play football, come play for us. They are so interested in building a culture in the state of Arizona. Well, now it looks like you're trying to do that as well by creating that Polynesian pipeline, as it has been dubbed. And you're bringing in these kids, and they are so bought in. It appears, at least. And we'll cross that bridge down the road. But as of right now, it's really becoming a trend for the team. And that's what I want to see is trends. I want to see trends be established. Your Polynesian pipeline, Activate the Valley, Texas to Tempe with Nick Townsend is Texas to Tempe. Like, they are really interested and really set on having these different trends and these different, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure, but they're creating trends, and they are trying to establish consistency when it comes to recruiting in these type of ways. So right now you're looking at Texas to Tempe, Activate the Valley, Polynesian Pipeline. They are doing all three with these visits, because on May 31st, again, my birthday, and what a birthday present this is. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Cooper Perry will be coming to Arizona State for an official visit. The number 1 recruit in the state of Arizona, the number 24 wide receiver in the nation, and the number 220th overall recruit in the nation. He is a 4-star, 6'1", 185, playing at Notre Dame Preparatory in Scottsdale. We have talked about him so many times. In fact, there was a whole episode talking about Cooper Perry. If you haven't seen that, check it out. This is such a massive move for Arizona State if they are able to pull Cooper Perry. And let me explain why. To give you the Reader's Digest, because again, we had a whole episode dedicated to this. Again, check it out if you haven't. The reason why this would be so big for Arizona State is because you would be plucking the number 1 recruit in the state. You would be plucking a kid who's in the Valley. It's not like he's up north. It's not like he's down south. Scottsdale, Arizona is one of the bigger, more well-known cities that is associated with Phoenix, that is associated with the Valley. So getting him and turning him into the face of your Activate the Valley movement would be huge. What a concept. And suddenly these other guys are going to want to follow. You get kids in 2025 that follow. You get kids in 2026 that follow. Maybe there's guys who left the state to go to programs out of the state, whether it's East Coast or West Coast or South or North, wherever, and they hit the transfer portal and they want to come home. We saw that this past year. You saw Jacob Conover. You saw Tate Romney. You saw Jake Smith. There was a lot of guys that played high school football at Arizona that decided to come back. And now you have the potential to really solidify that claim, solidify the trend of we are going to keep these kids home. We are going to keep these kids in the state of Arizona. We want them to come to Arizona State. We want them to activate the Valley. Be the face. Kenny Dillingham has said it perfectly before. You stay home, you can become a hometown legend here. Guys are going to be able to get the marketing opportunities. Like, look at Chase Lucas and N'Keal Harry. They've got commercials out here now. You've got fan favoritism when it comes to those two. Jalen Strong has been coaching out here for a little bit, and he's not even a native. Like, this is just a guy who came out, worked his you-know-what off, and has created himself his own little niche and his own home out in Arizona. People know who Jalen Strong is. People know who Chase Lucas and N'Keal Harry are. People know who Taylor Kelly is and Mike Bercovici. These are guys who have become the heroes of this part of the country, of the state of Arizona. Well, Cooper Perry can become the face of that. Because if he comes to Arizona State, he plays 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, everyone's going to know who he is. In fact, people are already very aware of who Cooper Perry is, not from this podcast alone. He's talked about in many different circles. This is someone that people are very aware of. He stays in state and he goes to Arizona State. That's a really big deal for them. And one more thing I want to mention before we move on to our next part of the conversation is, as I said at the top of the podcast, there are two very interesting recruits here. And it's Cooper Perry and it's Nick Townsend. Townsend was the athlete tight end from Houston. The reason why I have them as interesting compared to Ian Aker and the interior linemen is because 24/7 Sports lists their status as warm. Now, let me explain. In case you are not familiar with 24/7 Sports, which is normally my go-to, I love all the recruiting places. I love Rivals, On3, whatever. I just typically go with 24/7. When they are doing their statuses for guys, they have cool and they have warm. When you're listed as warm, typically it means that you are potentially going to be a finalist. Is this everything? No, of course. These websites miss all the time, but it's a good evaluation more often than not that Arizona State is going to have a very realistic possibility to land said prospect. So with Cooper Perry and Nick Townsend both having warm statuses, you have to feel good about your chances. You have to feel good about the opportunity for you to be in their 5 finalists, their 7 finalists, their 10 finalists, whatever. And then as they proceed to narrow it down, like, you really feel good that they can continue to place Arizona State as one of their potential landing spots. And that's a very exciting thought that these kids are going to end up at Arizona State. And they're two very important kids for more than one reason. We're going to talk about the holes that they fill. We're going to talk about why they are so important, and not just them, but the other kids as well, as the holes that they could potentially fill. We're going to hop into that in just one moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy your tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy. And that way, you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices are going to show you the total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. You can get those tickets in seconds with 2 easy taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts, so it's the best place to find last-minute tickets. Find exclusive deals and sponsored deals for tickets on just about everything that you can think of. Zone deals means you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And that Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price, because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your purchase. Terms apply. Again, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming on YouTube and Amazon Fire, and stay up to date with the biggest news from all leagues, college and pro. Back into our conversation, we're going to talk about the holes that these players would fill for you. Let's start with the two big names here, with Cooper Perry and with Nick Townsend. Now, with Cooper, it's a very obvious hole, and that is potentially wide receiver 1. After this season, there is potentially an entire new lineup at the wide receiver spot. Elijah Badger should be going to the draft. He should be going to the Senior Bowl. He should be headed to the pros. Troy O'Mary should be doing the same. I believe he is out of eligibility. Jake Smith, I'm not sure. I think he has 2 years, but let's work under the assumption that he's gone too. Melquan Stovall, out of eligibility. He is a graduate player this year. Jordan Tyson is draft eligible. So if he has a massive year, he could go pro. Xavier Guillory, no more eligibility after this year. That is your top 5 receivers. And there's other guys too that might be gone from the program for one reason or another. It's just part of the business. It's part of the game that we play. This leaves a gigantic hole for the Sun Devils to fill at wide receiver. Because even if like Jake Smith comes back, if he has the eligibility, even if Jordan Tyson comes back, you still need depth. And they've got guys, don't get me wrong. I mean, they pull in Plas Johnson, they pull in Caleb Black and some of the other kids that were over the last 2 recruiting cycles. But with Cooper Perry, he comes in and he could be your number 1 receiver. He's the number 1 right now at Notre Dame Preparatory. He is built like the number 1. He plays like a number 1. He does a little bit of everything as a pass catcher, as a runner. He looks the part. So yeah, pretty easy to plug and play him. Then you have Nick Townsend. And I don't know what he does on the defensive side of the football. This kid, from my understanding, is a tight end. And Bryce Pierre is not going to be with the program next year because he is going to be a graduate player. And I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. So filling his shoes will be huge. And they have a guy in Jaden Fortier who is recovering from an ACL surgery, but he should be back this year. And it's no secret that I am a massive Jaden Fortier fan. 4-star tight end out of Oregon. He was the number 1 player out of Oregon. He was all bought into the program. He was helping recruit kids over the summer and over the winter. He is that guy. He's going to come in. He's going to be your top tight end. But you still need someone next to him because Kenny Dillingham does like having multiple tight ends. Does that mean that they are all going to have 50 catches? No, because last year, Bryce Pierre wasn't the big breakout behind Jalen Conyers, but he was still a pivotal player for the team. They need a number 2 tight end next to Jaden Fortier, and that could be Nick Townsend. And even if he doesn't play tight end, like he plays defense, cool. Plug him and play wherever. The defense is going to need some help too. Whether it's wide receiver. Well, we just talked about wide receiver being in need. Bam, there's Nick Townsend. Mark Ionacre. Linebacker is a very interesting position for the Sun Devils because over the last 2 years, they have just brought in transfers. Last year, it was Tate Romney and it was Trey Brown. This year, it's Jordan Crook. It's I can't think of their names off the top of my head now, of course. Their point is they're bringing in a bunch of transfers this year. They've got Keyshawn Elliott was from New Mexico State. And there was the kid from San Diego State whose name's escaping me. I don't have it pulled up right now either. But they're addressing it through the transfer portal. So they could be adding Mark Ionacre here to be one of their first grown talents of the Kenny Dillingham era. He would fill a need and a void if any of those guys were to not have their eligibility. Like, I don't know how much time Crook and Ionacre, or not Ionacre, and Elliott and the San Diego State kid have remaining on their eligibility timelines. But you could also see Tate Romney go pro if he has a good season. You could see Crew Jackson, who didn't get on the field much last year. He could transfer as a graduate player, or maybe he does get on the field this year. Like, they are going to be looking for depth, for bodies, and for talent, and Ionacre fits that mold. And even if he doesn't play as a freshman, he feels like someone that you definitely hold on to for the long term. I mean, worst case scenario, he turns into DJ Calhoun, or he turns into Merlin Robertson. Like, there are a ton of ways that he could end up carving a niche at Arizona State. Linebacker is a need. And then with Houston, Ka'ahina Torres, you're just adding bodies to the interior of your offensive line. They did it throughout the offseason. They have been really focusing on building the trenches again. So, boom, there's another kid to plug in. There's another big, talented kid who could start or could be a special teams blocker for field goals. He could be a starter down the road. This is all very preliminary, of course. We're under the assumption in this instance that they all become something big. But the reality is they are all filling holes because ASU's interior line, sure, it'll have some young guys, but you're going to have other big names like Ben Coleman who are going to be moving on from the program next year. You're going to potentially be looking for a new center with Lee Fontanu. Like there are big changes coming to this Sun Devils team throughout the entirety of the roster because it is so built on transfers right now. And that needs to be the case while you establish a new culture. But eventually you need to start building through your recruiting classes. And this is a class that could really benefit from having these 4 players. Are you going to land all 4? Who knows? Odds are probably not. But if you did in a perfect world and you match them with some of the guys you already have coming in for next year, you're starting to build a young nucleus on this team that could really, really take a step forward and become a very good program and get you back on track and get you winning more football games and get you contending in the Big 12. That's a direction that you want any recruits to be. We could be talking about 4 completely different players. And I would tell you that they're still going to be critical because of building the young depth on this team and building the culture and establishing the Texas to Tempe, the Polynesian pipeline, the Activate the Valley. Because you got one of each of those here. You got one of each. 3 of these 4 guys are part of those trends. It's part of establishing what you want to do. That's a huge component here. And that's one of the reasons that I look at these 4 as important pieces. And again, we could get none of them. Truly. Cross that bridge when we get to it. But right now, you're asking me the holes they fill. That's where I'm at with it. We're going to talk about my overall thoughts here to kind of close out this episode in just one moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Again, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, as always, and making us your first listen of the day. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications wherever you get your podcasts. Let's wrap it up with my overall thoughts. And we've kind of dug deep here with these thoughts already. But I want to really, really hammer home how these kids really help build the culture that you have been trying to establish. I could talk about Cooper Perry till I'm blue in the face. So I don't want to continue to beat that same drum and feed a fed horse. Cooper Perry is very important in this recruiting cycle. He's arguably the most important recruit that you could be targeting right now. But with Nick Townsend, with Mark Ionaker, with Houston Ka'ahanea Torres, these are guys that are going to help establish culture. These are guys that are going to help establish depth, talent, all of it. Like I said, Arizona State right now is a program that is really built on having these transfers to establish the talent, to establish the I don't want to keep saying culture, but it really is like the mindset, the mentality, the way that Kenny Dillingham and the staff want to play football, that's what these transfers are helping to do. But at some point, you still need to recruit. You had a rock solid 2023 recruiting class that featured Jaden Rashada. You had another rock solid recruiting class this year that had Jaden Fortier and that had Jason Brown and that had tons of depth. Now you're looking at 2025, and this is hopefully the class that really kicks off for Arizona State. You're hoping that this is the one that is going to really start to pull in the talent and is really going to start establishing Arizona State as a contender for years to come. You've got a ton of potential opportunities here to pull in very talented players. And you've already brought in some really talented guys. Michael Butter Tollefson is going to be coming to this program as a high 3-star / 4-star kid, depending on where you're looking, as a quarterback. You've got 3 other kids right now. Joseph Smith, corner from Spring, Texas. Toby Mueller, an interior lineman from Chandler AZ. And Matiah Jefferson, an interior offensive lineman from Bellflower, California. You already have 4 kids. And fun fact, you are the number 25 class in the nation, ahead of Alabama, for what it's worth, which is kind of funny. But you're already off to a good start. Let's go crazy and say you get these 4 kids. You're up to 5 commits. You have 2 4-stars plus Tollefson, who is a 4-star depending on where you look. In fact, I think that 24/7 has him as a 4-star on their composite rankings. They do, and a 3-star on their player rankings, but he could always climb with a good season. You're in a crazy world. 8 commits, 3 4-stars, and some really high 3-stars too. That's what I'm talking about, baby. That right there is program building. And of course, you still attack the transfer portal, And maybe there's former Valley kids that decide to come back to Arizona and play for the hometown team. Well, part of you being able to do that is to also establish that not only can you can attack the transfer portal, but you can build a young roster too. You can bring in these kids who are going to play for you for 3, 4, 5 years. That's where you want to be with this. And I'm very excited for the future of this. Could you not get all 4? Sure. Could you get all 4? Sure. But this is a good step in the right direction. Hopefully, you are able to get 1 or 2 of these kids and others will follow. Hopefully you can get one of the 4-star kids and others will follow. Hopefully you continue to build upon the 3 trends that we have been seeing. You find a way to be able to do this, things just get easier. And they've already done a lot of groundwork over the last 2 recruiting cycles. Now is hopefully the time, that you can really get yourself over the top and you can really start to pull in the big name players. That's where you want to see yourself. And 2025 is the perfect opportunity to see everything come together. We typically say you want to wait 3 years to really judge a head coach and see the direction that they're going. Well, this would be year 3. This would be Kenny Dillingham's 3rd recruiting cycle. And you're talking about adding some very talented players. You already have 4 kids. You already have the 25th recruiting class in the nation as of now. Adding any of these kids, adding all of these kids is just going to skyrocket you. And I'm really excited to see Arizona State continue to climb and establish themselves. They're just visits. I totally understand that. But I'm still nonetheless really excited to see how this goes out. April 19th will be 3 kids coming in, including Nick Townsend. And May 31st, for my birthday present, will be Cooper Perry coming to the program. I want to know which of these guys you are the most excited, the most intrigued by for recruiting, the guys you want to see the most, Who else besides these four do you want to see come visit Arizona State? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Bradshaw36, the podcast as well, at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36, the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We are going to be continuing to talk Sun Devils football. We are going to have some basketball to talk about tonight. They are playing Arizona in Desert Financial Arena. If you are not going, you should go. You should tune in. I can't wait to see us pull off the 300-point upset that we got cooking up. Hopefully they can play their hearts out. Hopefully we can get a big-time upset to try and keep our hopes alive for going dancing in March. But I'll keep you guys posted. I'll see you next time. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun.